Okay, so if you've ever felt that familiar overwhelm when you're trying to map out a new business idea,
Oh, yeah.
or you just, needed to cut through all the noise and get really crystal clear about your vision,
Definitely.
well, you're in exactly the right place today. We are doing a deep dive into the lean canvas.
Mm-hmm.
It's a tool that's really designed to give you that clarity and, importantly, quickly and efficiently.
Yeah, the speed is key.
Now, here on the deep dive, we always champion that problem-first approach.
Absolutely fundamental.
Really digging into the pain points before you even think about solutions.
Yeah,
So once you feel like you've got a handle on that problem,
right.
that's where the lean canvas just becomes, well, kind of like your secret weapon.
It is.
People often call it a single-page business plan, which it is, sort of. But it's real genius. It's designed for speed, for iteration, and, I think, crucially, for rapid learning.
That learning piece is huge.
Its history is pretty interesting, too. It was
Right.
adapted by Ash Maurya from Alexander Osterwalder's original business model canvas. But this version, the lean canvas, was specifically honed for startups, those facing just immense uncertainty.
Exactly, because those traditional multi-page business plans,
Yeah.
they're often just too rigid, right? They take forever to write,
Way too long.
and they're often, frankly, just guesses,
Yeah,
especially when things are changing so fast.
right. The lean canvas it cuts through all of that noise.
And that's just so crucial. I mean, think about how many founders spend months, maybe even years, building something.
Yeah, building in the dark almost.
Before they even really find out if anyone actually wants it. The lean canvas forces you right up front to identify those core assumptions. It turns that potentially really costly building phase into much more efficient learning.
Transforming assumptions into hypotheses to test.
Exactly. It helps you navigate that crazy initial uncertainty with, just a lot more precision.
So if you're listening now and thinking, okay, sounds good, but why should I actually use this? What's in it for me?
Yeah, the practical benefit.
Let's unpack those. First off, just sheer speed and agility. And this isn't just theory. You really can map out your whole business model in under 20 minutes sometimes,
It's amazing how fast it can be.
which allows for incredible rapid iteration. You get a new idea or just a little tweak.
Yep.
Sketch it on a fresh canvas, instantly see how it changes things.
It makes pivoting much less painful.
Exactly. Second, it forces you to focus on uncertainty, like laser focus.
It really highlights the scary parts.
It does. It literally flags the riskiest bits of your model, which helps you prioritize what assumptions you absolutely need to test first.
Which saves you from chasing the wrong things.
Third, it's just a fantastic communication tool. Imagine trying to explain your whole vision
Right.
to a team member, an advisor, maybe even an investor. You can do it all on one single, concise page.
Everyone gets the big picture immediately. No wading through 50 pages.
And finally, and this is huge for us, it really hammers home that problem-solution fit.
Keeps you honest.
It does. It keeps the problem right there, front and center, making sure you're always building solutions for problems people actually have.
Not just building something cool because you can.
Right. Avoiding that solution looking for a problem trap.
Exactly. And if you connect this to the bigger picture of launching anything new, it's all about minimizing that wasted effort
Totally.
and maximizing validated learning. Every single minute you spend building something nobody needs, well, that's a minute you could have spent learning what they do need. This canvas is basically designed to make that learning cycle super efficient.
Okay. Makes total sense. So let's get into the nuts and bolts. Let's unpack the structure.
Let's do that.
Imagine, a big blank rectangle on a piece of paper or a whiteboard. It's split into 9 boxes.
The 9 building blocks.
Exactly. And we're going to walk through them, maybe not in strict numerical order, but in a way that kind of mirrors how you'd naturally think through an idea and challenge your own thinking.
Yeah, a logical flow makes more sense than just box 1, box 2.
Right. So, where do we always start? Where all good entrepreneurial journeys kick off.
The problem.
The problem. Top left section. This is where you list, say, the top 1 to 3 core problems your target customers are actually dealing with.
Be specific.
Super specific, yeah. What's the real pain point? And just as important, you also need to list any existing alternative.
What are they doing now?
Exactly. How are your potential customers trying to solve these problems right now? Even if their current solutions are, messy or imperfect, it gives you
Yeah.
crucial context.
It's fascinating because so often founders kind of gloss over this.
They jump to the solution too fast.
Right. If you don't clearly define a problem that really hits home for someone, you risk building something nobody actually needs. Or maybe just something that's only slightly better.
A marginal improvement isn't enough.
Exactly. And understanding those existing alternatives, that tells you who or what your real competition is. It's not just direct competitors. It's anything people use now to cope with that pain. Duct tape, spreadsheets, ignoring the problem.
Huh. Yeah, good point. Okay, so you've nailed the problem. The next logical question is who? Who actually has this problem most acutely?
Yes.
That brings us to customer segments over in the top right block.
Who are you building this for?
Precisely. Define your target customers. Be specific again. Demographics, sure, but also psychographics, behaviors. What makes them tick?
And crucially.
Yes. Crucially, identify your early adopters.
Those first crucial users.
Yeah. Those specific people who feel the pain of your defined problem most intensely. They're the ones likely looking for a solution right now and probably willing to try something new, even if it's not perfect yet.
The big takeaway here is just you can't build something relevant if you don't know exactly who you're building it for.
Right.
This block forces you to really step into their shoes, understand their world, and resist that urge to say, oh, my product is for everyone.
Which is almost never true.
Almost never. That's usually a big red flag.
Okay. Problem defined, customers identified. But what makes your thing stand out? And what might be a crowded space? You need a beacon.
You need your hook.
Exactly. That's your unique value proposition, the UVP. Smack bang in the center top. This is your core promise.
The heart of it.
So what goes here? It's got to be a single, clear, compelling message. It states why you are different and why someone should pay attention to you, choose you.
Over all the other options, including the do-nothing option.
Right. And it's not just a catchy slogan. It's deeper than that. It's a concise statement of the core benefit, the unique value you deliver.
And this is just paramount. This is how you cut through all the noise out there, how you grab attention. Without a strong UVP, you're kind of just another voice in the crowd, easily ignored. It really challenges you to distill everything you offer into one irresistible pull.
Okay, compelling. So, problem, customer, UVP. Now we can finally talk about the solution.
Finally.
Center left block. Here's where you list, say, the top 1 to 3 features of your product or service.
The key features.
Key features, exactly, that directly address the problems you identified earlier. Keep it pretty high level for now. What's the core stuff that actually solves that specific pain for your early adopters?
Notice the order here. Problem first, then solution.
Yes.
This block explicitly links the problem to what you're offering. It makes sure your solution isn't just clever, but actually deeply relevant to the customer's pain.
Prevents you building that magnificent hammer when they really need a screwdriver.
Precisely.
Yeah.
Avoids the cool tech looking for a use cases scenario.
All right. Great solution in mind. But how are people going to find it? How will it get into their hands?
The logistics.
Yeah, that's the channels block, center right. This is all about your paths to customers. How will they find you? How will you deliver the value?
It's broader than just marketing.
Much broader. You got to think about, say, acquisition channels, social media, SEO, maybe paid ads, but also retention channels like email marketing, great customer service. And then your actual sales channels. Is it an online store? Direct sales force, partners.
It's so true. You could have the absolute best solution in the world. But if customers never hear about it, or they can't figure out how to get it, or it's too difficult to buy, well, you don't really have a business, do you?
Nope. Still just an idea.
This block forces you to think through that whole customer journey, really. From first awareness all the way to, hopefully, repeat business.
Okay, super important. Now for the big one, for sustainability. How are you actually going to make money?
Show me the money.
Exactly. That's your revenue streams, bottom right block. Here you list your pricing model or models and how you'll actually generate income.
Lots of options here.
Totally. Is it a subscription, a one-time purchase, maybe a freemium model, basic free, premium paid, advertising revenue, licensing, and crucially, what's the perceived value you're capturing that justifies that price?
This is the lifeblood, isn't it? So many founders, especially early on, they kind of underprice things.
Yeah, they lack confidence in the value sometimes.
Maybe. Or they haven't clearly articulated the value they're actually delivering. This block pushes you to think beyond just the price tag to how you capture a share of the economic value you're creating for that customer. Because without a sustainable revenue model, Your amazing venture is, well, it's just a very expensive hobby.
Ouch. True, though. Okay, so revenue is key. But what about the other side of the coin? The costs.
Gotta know what you're spending.
Right. Directly left of revenue streams, bottom left corner, we have the cost structure. What's it going to cost you to deliver your solution? Run the business.
All the expenses.
Yep. List your major costs, both fixed and variable. Think about, initial development, ongoing marketing spend, operational overhead rent, utilities, whatever, salaries for the team, maybe server costs if it's digital.
Everything adds up.
It does.
And understanding your costs isn't just about making a budget. It's fundamental for figuring out if you can even be profitable.
Yeah, and setting the right price back in the revenue block.
Exactly. I've seen really promising ideas just stall out because they didn't properly account for all the costs, maybe hidden ones or ones that scaled unexpectedly. This block forces you to face those financial realities nice and early. No burying your head in the sand.
Good discipline. Okay, next up, bottom center, but just to the left of our final block, we have key metrics.
Measuring what matters.
Exactly. How will you actually measure success? How will you know if you're moving in the right direction?
Instead of just guessing.
Right. Identify the key activities you need to track. These should be actionable metrics, things that help you make decisions. A really useful framework people often use here is the AARR funnel.
Ah, yes, a pirate mess.
The pirate metrics. Acquisition, activation, retention, revenue, and referral. So are you tracking things like, say, website signups, daily active users, customer churn rate, conversion rate from free trial to paid?
Things you can actually influence.
Yes.
Because what gets measured gets managed, right? Or at least improved. Without clear metrics, you're essentially flying blind. You're relying on gut feelings, which can be useful but aren't enough. This block makes sure you define success and failure in ways you can actually quantify, which is essential for that learning and iteration loop we talked about.
Okay, nearly there. The last block, bottom center to the right of key metrics. This is the one that often feels like the holy grail for a startup.
The secret sauce?
Your unfair advantage, what makes you truly defensible, what makes you hard to copy.
Yes, this one can be tough.
It's often the hardest block to fill out, especially really early on, because by definition, it's something that can't be easily bought or replicated by competitors.
So what are some examples?
Could be things like unique insider information, maybe a patent if you have one, a really engaged community you've built, maybe deep, highly specialized expertise on the team, or even just a unique brand story that connects deeply.
Network effects could be one too.
Good one, yeah.
This is really about your long-term competitive edge. How do you build a moat around your business?
Right.
And it's often something that's built over time, not something you just have on day one. It can emerge as the business evolves. So honestly, don't panic if this box is blank when you first start.
That's okay.
Totally okay. The act of just thinking about it is valuable. It forces you to consider your future, your sustainability, your defensibility down the road.
Got it. Okay, so that's the 9 blocks. Yeah. How do you actually fill this thing out effectively to really get the most from it?
Good question. Practical tips.
Yeah. First, always start with the problem and the customer segments.
Anchor points.
They really are your anchor points. Get those dialed in, and the rest tends to flow more easily. Second, and this sounds low tech, but use Post-it notes.
Oh, absolutely. Love Post-its for this.
They're like magic, right? It makes it so easy to move ideas around, swap things out, iterate on your assumptions without having to redraw the whole canvas every 5 minutes.
Keeps it flexible, keeps it dynamic.
Exactly. Third, keep it concise. Think bullet points, short phrases, not paragraphs.
Yeah. Resist the urge to write an essay in each box.
Totally. Remember, it's a 1-page overview. Clarity at a glance is the goal. And maybe most importantly, understand this is a living document.
It's not set in stone.
Not at all. Your first attempt, it's going to be absolutely full of assumptions. And that is perfectly okay. That's the point, actually.
It's a starting point.
It's just a starting point for validation. As you learn more from customers, from experiments, you update it, you refine it. And please, please don't fall in love with your first canvas.
Oh, crucial advice. Be prepared to kill your darlings.
You have to be. Be prepared to pivot, maybe make significant changes as you gather that real-world data, those real insights.
Because your first guess is almost always wrong, at least in parts.
Yeah, probably in several parts. So, okay, you've filled out your first lean canvas. You've got your 9 boxes looking reasonably full. You're not done, right?
Not even close. That's just the beginning.
Right. You've basically just articulated your initial set of hypotheses, your guesses. The real work, that starts now. And that work is validation.
Testing those guesses.
Exactly. Every single block on that canvas pretty much represents an assumption you've made about your customers, their problems, your solution, your channels, your price, everything.
It's a map of your assumptions.
Perfect way to put it. So your very next step is to figure out how to design experiments to test those assumptions. And you start with the riskiest ones.
Where are you most likely to be wrong, and where would being wrong hurt the most?
Yes. So for instance, if your biggest, riskiest assumption is, I don't know, customers will happily pay $50 a month for this service.
A common big assumption.
Right. Then your first experiment might be, say, conducting some customer interviews specifically focused on pricing sensitivity. Or maybe you run a really simple landing page with a pre-order button just to see if people click it to test actual buying intent.
Or even just pitching the concept directly to a few potential customers and seeing their reaction to the price point.
Lots of ways to test. The point is, you test before you build the whole thing.
Absolutely. The lean canvas isn't meant to be some definitive plan that you frame and put on the wall,
Right.
or that collects dust in a drawer.
Right.
It's a living, breathing hypothesis. It's meant to guide your learning, guide your experimentation. Think of it like your compass in those really uncertain waters of starting something new. It's constantly pointing you towards what you need to figure out, what you need to validate next.
That's a great way to think about it. A compass, not a map.
Okay, well, that wraps up our deep dive into the lean canvas.
Powerful tool.
It really is. And I seriously encourage all of you listening, it doesn't matter what stage your idea is, a napkin sketch, early prototype, whatever, grab a template. You can find tons of great free ones online.
Super easy to find.
And just fill it out for your concept. Seriously, it will likely be one of the most clarifying, maybe eye-opening exercises you can do.
Time well spent.
Definitely.
Yeah.
And in our upcoming deep dives, we're actually going to build on this. We'll talk about how to run those effective customer interviews we mentioned.
Getting good feedback. How to build a minimum viable product, an MVP, to test things, and how to really rigorously test all those assumptions you've just put down on your canvas.
Connecting the dots.
Exactly. So as you go about your week, maybe think about your own idea, your own venture. Think of that lean canvas not as some finished, static map, but as that living, evolving sketch. A sketch that gets sharper, more focused with every single piece of learning you gain from the real world. And maybe ask yourself this: what's the single riskiest assumption on your canvas right now that you could go out and test next week?